What is going on, guys? It's Modded Warfare here. Welcome back to another hardware tutorial video. So I haven't actually done a hardware tutorial in like 6 months since I actually built this computer. So in this video what I'm going to do is show you guys how to add underglow lighting. So we're going to be attempting to basically put an LED strip underneath the computer so we get the underneath of the computer lit up, because you can get a lot of PCs nowadays that have underglow lighting already built into the case. But if you don't have it built into the case and you want to add it, I'm going to show you guys how you can do that. Now that's one part of the video. The other reason for this video is to show you guys how to install LED strips without having an RGB header on the motherboard, because not every computer motherboard has an RGB strip header that you can just plug directly in. And the other reason is just so that we can basically use more of this LEDs. So I've had this for ages. This has actually been really useful, rather than buying the LED strips that are quite expensive and come in a pack of like one strip or two strips, and they have like their own connector, the black ones. You can buy like a big spool of LEDs like this, just a huge long LED strip, and then you can basically just cut off different lengths. And I've actually got really good use out of this, because not only have I done sort of underneath the desk there, I've got a strip going all the way underneath the desk. I've also got 4 on here, so top, bottom, right and left, there's a strip on each one. And now we're going to do one underneath here as well. You definitely save a lot of money if you're going to use a lot of LEDs by getting one of these instead of like the individual strips, which are a lot more expensive, but do have like the proper plugs at the end to connect. You have to solder with these ones. So yeah, that's the basic idea of this video. These are RGB LED strips, so you know, fully RGB. I'm going to show you guys how you can, you know, if you just want one specific color, how you can get it all hooked up so it just has one specific color, and also how to get it hooked up so that you can change the colors and basically have like full RGB with the remote control and everything that this initially comes with. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is basically get our LED strip. I've already cut it to the correct length, so that it should go all the way from the front to the back of the computer. And then what you want to do is, you can see with these LED strips here, they actually have this kind of gel coating. I think it's basically like a waterproof coating, so that you can, you know, have them outside. But what you want to do is remove that so you can get access to the individual points, so that we can solder these points. So as you can see on here, I've already done it. Just took my pen knife and just kind of cut it and picked that bit off. So we've got this little bit that's exposed from the gel coating that we can go ahead and solder each individual piece to. So the other thing we're going to need is some wires. Now I've got this, I got this off eBay. It's basically, I think it's 0.1 millimeter thickness wire, which is actually really good, because so it's not stiff wire, so it doesn't kind of, you know, like tug on the LED strip and try and force it in different directions. And with it being such thin wire, it's pretty useful as well. It's not going to be, you're not really going to see it. I also picked black because my PC case is black, so that it'll kind of blend in as well and I won't be able to really see it. So that is kind of what we want. So with these kind of wires, you just want to go ahead and trim down the edge of the wires to expose the actual wire itself. So you want to trim off the insulation on both sides. If you're just going to be trying to do it to make it one specific color, then really all you need is 2 wires. You only need 2 wires. If you're going for full RGB and you don't have the little connector that it comes with at the end like this, if you're using that for something else and you've just got this spare LED strip left over, then you're going to have to cut out 4 wires if you want the full RGB. But if you just want one specific color, then you only need 2. So let's go ahead and get this set up now. Okay, so in order to do this, we're going to be using this Molex connector. Now I've cut off the edge of the wires and trimmed down 2 of them. Now this was actually attached to this thing. I don't actually know what this connector is actually, to be quite fair, but it used to be attached to this. I just cut it in half with a pair of scissors, and trim down each edge of these exposed wires. So looking at it from this direction here, the one on the far left, that's our 12 volt, and then this one here is our ground. The reason I know that, because they're all black on this specific one, is I've got one of these ones here, and you can see these are the actual color coded ones, the normal ones, and you can see that one is yellow, so that one's our 12 volt, and then this one's our ground, and it will be the same with this one as well. So that's how you know. So anyway, what we're going to basically do is we're going to take these little black wires and we're going to solder them to these 2 points, so both wires, one for each one, and then the other end we're going to solder onto our LED strip. What you need to know about this is that it's extremely annoying to do with just one pair of hands. So if you can get a friend or somebody to hold the 2 wires together while you solder them together, that definitely helps. Or if you have some kind of vise that you can secure it in place, great. I unfortunately don't have that luxury, so I'm not going to be able to do that. Now what you want to do is just put some flux. If you have flux, definitely recommend having it. Just put some flux on both points, both edges of each wire, and then what we're going to do, get my soldering iron out here, maybe put a bit of here we go, maybe put a bit of solder on the edge of the tip of the iron, and try and build up some solder on the actual thicker wire first. And yeah, so here comes the annoying part. So might actually need something to secure this in place. Oh, actually that was very easy. Huh, that's unusual. Doesn't normally go that well. That was surprisingly easy. But normally I have the thicker wires that kind of tug on this and kind of move it about. So these thinner wires are much easier. Okay, so let's do the next one now. This one here. So we'll put some flux on this one. I've got a feeling this one will be a bit more difficult. Alright, so that's our 2 wires attached. Now what we're going to have to do is insulate them. So we don't want these 2 points to accidentally touch each other. If these 2 wires get too close and bzz, they touch each other while the power is running through it, it's going to short it out. We don't want that. So we're going to have to insulate it. Heat shrink tubing is kind of like the best thing you can use. I don't have any of it, so I just use duct tape. It's, you know, it doesn't look as neat obviously, but it will do the job. It will insulate it. So we're just going to wrap some duct tape around this one and around this one so that if they touch each other, they're not going to short anything out. Okay, so I've done a horrible job of insulating this with the duct tape. So the duct tape's not really sticking very well because of the fact that there's still flux on there. I should have cleaned the flux off, but it's been a while. So anyway, that will do though. That will stop it from touching each other. So we can basically start soldering the other points to our LED strips. If I peel this back here, you can see we've got our 12 volt green, red, blue. So we just want to solder the 12 volt point, which is this one right here, I believe. So we're going to solder this one here. So what I'll do is I'll dab a little bit of flux on the 12 volt point. Not using that one. Yeah, this one will do. So put a little bit on here. So basically, just going to heat up the pad, put the solder on, let that melt on. Okay, so that'll do for that. Then what we're going to do is just take our 12 volt point and solder this on. Okay, so that's our 12 volt point on. Now, before we solder the next one, So we've got our next wire to do here. I'm going to show you guys, give you guys an example of how you can change it between these different ones for the different colors. Now, for testing, I don't recommend hooking this up to your main computer power supply. You can if you want. If you are going to hook it up to your main computer power supply for testing, obviously, like if you soldered the 12 volt and the ground the other way around, most likely the computer just won't turn on. There'll probably be like a safety feature in your power supply. But if there isn't, then you could damage your power supply or even your computer. So it's best to have a spare power supply to do this, to test, which I'm going to show you guys how to set that up. Otherwise, if you don't have a spare power supply, then what you want to do is unplug the ATX and the CPU power from your power supply, unplug them from your motherboard, and then you can basically bridge the ATX connector and go ahead and test, basically, which should be safe to do then. For testing, I've got myself a spare power supply here. It's just a 350 watt power supply, ATX, connected to power. It's ready to go. Now obviously if you just flick the switch, normally a power supply is not going to turn on because you need to basically bridge the ATX power connector. So you can see here I've got a piece of solder which is basically bridging the 2 points, so that when I flick the switch on the power supply, it will turn the power supply on fully, rather than, because normally you would have to have this plugged into a computer motherboard in order for it to actually turn on when you flick the switch. So in order to do that, you need to have the points that need to be bridged is the green wires. So you can see where the green wire is going in. I have it bridged on there. So one bit of solder is stuck into the green wire slot, and then the other one can be in any of the black wires, and then that will bridge it. But you need to make sure that you're doing that right. So it's the green wire and any one of the black wires, and that will bridge it. If you don't have a piece of solder, you can use like a paper clip. You can even get I think on eBay and stuff, you can even buy like ATX slots that you can plug this into that has like a bridge already on it. So you can do that as well. That would be like the safest method. But if not, you can just use a piece of solder, or a good old paper clip works fine. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take our Ghetto Molex connector, and we're going to hook it up to a Molex connector on this power supply here. So that's us all hooked up and ready to go. And now I take this LED strip, make sure it's in view. There's quite a lot of light reflection actually I'm noticing on this camera, so hopefully this will be clear. So now you can see this because I've got the power supply turned on now. So we've got our 12 volts already soldered on. This is our ground. So I can complete the connection by touching one of these points, and boom, we get blue. So if I wanted to have continuous blue LEDs, I could just solder it to this point. If I wanted red, I can move it to the middle point, we get red. If I wanted green, I could move it to this point here, we get green. So red, green, or blue. So if you want just one specific color, you can just solder this to whichever one you want. Now, I personally, when I do this, I like white. I don't know why, I just find it's a clean color and not a distracting color, and I like having white LEDs for my my desk space. So I want white. Now obviously I only have these three options. Well, what I can do is if I bridge all three of these points together, red, green and blue together, with some solder, so I bridge all three and then solder this wire directly to it, I should end up with white. Now I might end up bridging the other one as well, which is not what I want, but basically I'm going to solder these and try and bridge them together. There you go, so you can see those two are bridged. Now getting this last one without bridging 12 volt is going to be a bit difficult. Let's try. Yay, success. There we go, finally. Okay, so by soldering these three together, if I touch it now, boom, you see that? We get white. Don't know how clear that is, but by bridging red, green and blue together, we get red, green and blue lights lighting up at the same time, and we get everything basically lighting up at the same time, which gives us white. So if you want white, if you've got a fully RGB LED strip like I do, and you want just solid white, then that's what you got to do. You got to bridge red, green and blue together and then solder your ground to that, and you'll end up with white. So that is basically how we do that. So you also want to bear in mind, if you want something like orange or yellow or purple or something like that, or pink even, then you're going to have to sort of experiment and bridge different ones, like bridge green and red, or bridge red and blue together, and so that you basically like mixing the colors basically to get the color that you want. Okay, I believe we are hooked up. So that is basically it. I've got my white LED strip. Now, if you want to learn how to use the signal box and everything, I'm going to show you guys that after. I just want to hook this up initially, show you guys that it works with like one single color with this kind of ghetto setup that we've made here now with the Molex connector and the LED strip. We've got that all set up. So I'm going to set this up on my actual computer, test it and see if it works basically. Okay guys, so here's the LED strip right here, and it is connected, wires running all the way in to here. There is a Molex connector here, and it is plugged in to the computer. So I'm going to turn the computer on, and computer is on, as you can see, powered up, and so is the LED strip. So as you can see, that has absolutely worked. So if I just wanted white, this is perfect. But yeah, as you can see, it's worked perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to do it through this. So if you have the little IR receiver box, but hey, this way works perfectly fine. So if you just have a one colored LED strip, just one color, and you want to hook it up and you just want to have that one color, then that's absolutely fine. You can do that. As you can see, it clearly works. All we would have to do is take this LED strip, peel back these the little thing on the back so that you can stick it, and then you want to just stick it on underneath the computer basically, and then run these wires through your back plates here for your graphics card. So we could even stick them through these little grooves, or take out an entire plate and just run the wires through that way. But as you can see, we've booted up, the LED strip's still on, everything's working fine. So if we wanted to do it that way, we could, but let's go one step further and get full RGB with the remote control and the IR receiver as well. Okay, so in order to get full RGB with the LED strips, your LED strip should come with this little IR receiver for the little remote that you can use to change the colors, and the slot that actually plugs in, this is the area here that plugs into the LED strips. You got 4 points on here. Now your LED strip should come with a like a slot to plug this in. In fact, I can show you the one that's on my RGB header for my motherboard here. So your LED strips should already be attached to one of these plugs, and you can plug it directly in here. If not, then what you have to do is basically just get like the black wires that I was using, get your wires and solder each one to each one of these, so 4 in total, and then solder the other ends to, you know, each one of these points on here on your LED strip. But your LED strip should come with like the plug already attached. However, that's not the issue. The issue is this, because this plugs in normally to a wall outlet, so it plugs into the wall basically. So you have one of these plugs, and then on the other end you have a 3-pin plug to plug into your wall socket. Now what I did, pretty simple, is I basically just cut it here, trimmed it down so you have your power and your ground. You solder the power wire to your 12 volt on a Molex connector, your ground goes to the ground connector on the Molex connector, and then I basically ended up with this kind of ghetto power adapter essentially. So you just plug this in here and then plug this end into your power supply on your computer, and of course this will be plugged into your LED strips, and voila, it'll work. It'll be powered from the computer, and you can use your remote to change the colors, which is what we're going to do. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this all set up. Okay, so we're basically at the moment of truth point here. I've got the case back on. So just to kind of show you what I've done here, I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to see. Actually, I don't think you'll be able to see that at all. But essentially, at least you can see sort of here. So I've taken out the bottom PCI back plate, and connected the Molex connector to a Molex connector on my power supply, ran it through out there to the IR receiver box, and then that is plugged into the LED connector on the back, which runs underneath the computer itself. So I'm going to turn it on, see what happens. Oh, there it is. There it is. That has worked pretty damn well, I'd say. So if we look at it from this side, you can see the LED underglow under the entire thing. Looks pretty damn awesome. Not quite, camera doesn't actually pick it up as well as it looks in reality, but still, it's pretty awesome. This is quite a wide case, so if you wanted the glow to be a lot more than this, then I know like from here it looks like there's only a glow on this half but not the back half, but that's only because of the angle. If I go on the back half here, you can see that there's an even amount of glow going along the whole bottom of the case. But I've got one strip that's running down the middle, you can see there. That one strip running right down the middle. If you wanted to go for more, then you could put two strips. So maybe one sort of on this side and then one on this side, to get more of an even glow on both sides. Okay, I have found the remote at last. So we can change it to red, we can change it to blue, change it to green, change it to purple, sort of lighter blue, we've got lighter green, even flashing different colors. I mean, I can change that to blue, change that to blue, so we get kind of even colors across the whole board. Change that one to red, change this one to red, so now you got a nice red all along the whole desk and the computer as well, which is nice. Green, let's do green. Green there and green there. Looking pretty good. And obviously the LEDs inside are software controlled. Because we're hooking this directly up to a Molex connector, we can't control it through any kind of like software, unfortunately. That's not really possible when you're directly connecting it to the power supply and not the actual motherboard. If we were connecting it to the motherboard, we might be able to do some software tuning so that the LEDs in here would also be the same. But we can go into the software. If I wanted green like this, I could go into the software on the computer. I use the Asus Aurora, is it Aura software I think it's called, and I could make all of these 4 LEDs in here green, along with the LEDs on the motherboard green as well, to match that. But let's go, the two ones I like, yeah, that, so kind of like a cyan, kind of like really light blue is nice, I like that one, or white. because they're not distracting colors. White or kind of like a light blue is nice. Where's white? Yeah, there we go. So yeah, that is basically it. That is how you do underglow lighting, if that's what it's called. Putting an LED strip basically underneath the computer, and it looks pretty awesome actually. And of course you can do this with LEDs. I know I'll get people in the comments who will say, dude, all this soldering shit, why don't you just, you know, buy the LED strips? Or you can probably buy now like Molex 2 RGB connector adapters for the PC now legitly anyway. But the point is, guys, with just that one big roll of LEDs, which I think is like £30 or something, or 20, I think it's less than that, I think it's like £20, £24 for that big massive spool of LED strips, we've got a lot out of it. We've got underglow LEDs on the computer, we've got 4 LED strips in the actual computer as well, plus a whole across the back of the desk, a whole strip on the back of the desk from all the way across one end to the other. We've got all of that out of one spool of LEDs. Plus, even though these are like completely separate from the case, they are connected to the power supply in the computer. So when the computer turns off, these LED strips turn off with it. They're not separate. They will turn off with the computer and they'll turn on with the computer. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like. I really do appreciate that, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Comment if you have any questions, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next video.